When I became first vegetarian and then vegan, I learned about so many things that I hadn't realized before about the effects of our food choices on animals, most of all, and on our own well-being and health. As someone who was a psychologist working with clients, that really hit home because many people have these lifestyle-related illnesses and aren't even aware there's things they could do to make a difference. Many of us are compassionate and don't realize how our food choices and other choices affect animals.
That exactly, because I can certainly relate to the pain that the burden of knowing causes. However, I wouldn't take it back. I love being aware. I love that I'm not participating knowingly in additional cruelty. And I really want more people to see, to connect with that part of themselves.
Welcome to the Better Life for Animals podcast, where we amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. Through powerful stories and expert insights, we shine a light on the efforts to rescue, protect, and advocate for animals. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Every follower helps us reach more people. And support animal sanctuaries. Enjoy the conversation.
Welcome to Better Life for Animals, where we believe that compassion for all animals is key to making the world a better place. I'm your host, Cheryl Moss, and in each episode, we're going to share not only inspiring stories of sanctuaries and the incredible creatures that call them home, but also the powerful voices of the humans who are leading for the charge for compassion. From dedicated sanctuary founders and caregivers to advocates and visionaries who are working tirelessly to create a kinder world for animals, we will dive deep into the heart of what it means to provide a sanctuary of love, care, and hope. Together, we'll celebrate the remarkable intersection of animal welfare and human kindness and discover how we can all contribute to a world where compassion truly knows no bounds. So let's get started. I'm so excited to welcome my guest today, Miss Dr. Angela Crawford. How are you doing, Angela?
I'm great and so thrilled to be here as you're launching this podcast.
Yes, thank you for being here. Angela Crawford, PhD, is a psychologist, a vegan educator, and the author of an upcoming book, The Vegan Transformation, A Journey to Heal Yourself and the World. It's being published through Lantern and will be available this month in April. She is passionate about empowering people toward plant-powered living for physical, mental, and emotional health, compassion for all sentient beings, and caring for our planet. She speaks and teaches about thriving emotionally and socially as a vegan, the connection between food and mood, overcoming barriers to lifestyle change, and values alignment. Dr. Crawford previously worked as a psychotherapist for 25 years, empowering clients towards greater holistic well-being. She holds certificates as a master vegan lifestyle coach, an educator, and licensed PCRM, food for life instructor, and transformational coach. She is passionate about the power of personal transformation to create a more fulfilling, healthy, and purposeful life and a kinder, more sustainable world. Angela is available at angelacrawfordphd.com as well as many social media channels. That's right, isn't it, Angela?
Yes, and you can find all of those on the contact page of my website.
Excellent. So, Angela, thank you and congratulations on your new wonderful book.
Oh, thank you.
Tell us, what inspired you to write Vegan Transformation, and what do you hope that readers will take away from it?
When I became first vegetarian and then vegan, I learned about so many things that I hadn't realized before about the effects of our food choices on animals, most of all, and on our own well-being and health. As someone who was a psychologist working with clients, that really hit home because many people have these lifestyle related illnesses and aren't even aware there's things they could do to make a difference. Many of us are compassionate and don't realize how our food choices and other choices affect animals. And then later on, I learned about the impact of animal agriculture on the planet. And for me, when I became, first vegetarian, and then it took me a little bit longer to become vegan, wish it was quicker, but just so much changed for me because I realized through one choice, being more compassionate for all beings through what I ate most of all, but also over time I incorporated other choices too, like clothing and cosmetics and all of that to be cruelty free. But this choice of what I bought and what I ate that I'm blessed to be able to make could have an impact on so many things I cared about. As a compassionate person, I never wanted to hurt animals, but I didn't, really realize one to the degree that our food choices really are so harmful and cruel when we eat animals. But also, I didn't know there was an option because I was raised in the Midwest and, where we're taught that you have to eat meat to thrive. And I guess many of us are taught that, no matter where we're raised. But that was sort of farm country where I had no idea about factory farms. I just saw, the cows in the field, but not the factory farm where, the animals were confined in often large scale operations. So learning all this and realizing there's one thing I can do that could make a difference for so many things I care about, my own health, being kinder to animals, helping our planet that all of us can see is having increasing problems, with environmental issues and climate issues and weather events. It just was life-changing for me. And, at first, before I became plant-based, I thought it would be restrictive. But when I went with a fully plant-based lifestyle, that actually my world opened up. I found that I loved to cook, which I had never liked to cook before. I found that I, tried all these different foods that were so much more healthy for me. I found my own well-being improved in mind, body, and spirit. And as I got to know other vegans all over the world, really, I started to be in different networking events, and I found many other vegans felt the same way that, even though it was a challenge sometimes to make these changes in a world that isn't yet vegan, there were also just so many blessings from being aligned with our values, from finding greater purpose. So I wanted to study this because I felt like as a psychologist, there's a lot of research out there about the health benefits of a plant-based lifestyle, a vegan lifestyle that shows that it can reverse heart disease and cancer and all that, and some forms of cancer and diabetes, type 2 diabetes. But there wasn't as much out there about how does it affect us emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. So I really wanted to look at that. And so that led me to do surveys and interviews with vegans to look at how emotionally they were impacted through choosing a vegan lifestyle and spiritually. And that led to the book and the principles that came through in the book. And I was really blessed that you were one of my interviewees. So that
Was a
great.
wonderful experience. Yes, what I really love and connect with what you're saying, Angela, is that so many people come to this from various different avenues. But once you get to a point where you're looking at the animals, it hurts your heart,
Mm.
and it can be, being vegan in a non-vegan world can be very challenging. I wonder how can somebody find the courage to align their daily choices like we do, especially when there's so much societal pressure not to.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of layers to that. One is that first, I think we do need a really strong sense of why, a motivation for why we're doing this. That's sort of the foundation. And for many of us, that might involve reading books or watching videos that really help us connect with what's happening to animals. As human beings, most of us do have compassion for animals. Some of the research I share in my book showed that 85% of Americans want farmed animals to be treated humanely, no matter what their political orientation was or their socioeconomic status or whatever their situation. Most people want animals to be treated compassionately. And that's actually one of the, indicators of mental health is our ability to feel compassion for other beings, including animals. So it's something that's important to many of us. It's wired into us, actually. Most of us, there are, of course, exceptions, people that might have a more, some mental health issues that they don't have that compassion. But for most of us, that's there. And so at the same time, society, the way it's set up, the way in advertising is set up, we're not able to really see what happens to animals. We have to go looking for it. And we've also been raised to compartmentalize our compassion. As Dr. Melanie Joy teaches us in her research, for example, the book Why We Love Dogs, Eat Pigs, and Wear Cows. Did I have that wrong? Why We Love Dogs? Yeah, I think I got it right. I always had to think about that title. Um, she shows that we're raised and socialized and indoctrinated from a young age to feel like certain animals are our friends and that we love them, like dogs and cats, and other animals we're raised to think of as food and therefore not really consider what happens to them or extend that same compassion to them. So I think first we really have to break through that early conditioning by learning and daring to face what really happens, even though it's painful for many of us to face that. And so that might be reading certain books. I know for me, early on my journey, Diet for a New America and Food Revolution by John Robbins were two books that helped me to first become aware of how animals were treated on factory farms and in other industries. That really made me feel like I can't keep doing this. Later on, it was documentaries, probably the one that was the hardest to see, but left me knowing that I had no choice but to become vegan was Earthlings. Once I saw that, I was already on the path to going from vegetarian to vegan, but seeing that, I just remember just being heartbroken. It was hard to watch even the whole thing because it was so painful. I think sometimes we have to connect with what's really happening before we're really motivated to change. Beyond that, though, we need self-care and other practices to help us navigate what Claire Mann, a vegan psychologist from Australia who wrote Dystopia, she calls it the burden of knowing. When we actually dare to face what happens to animals, we're carrying this burden of knowing. And it's not always easy to be the one that witnesses tough things. I know that from my work as a therapist, where I walked with clients through trauma and, the pains that they carried from abuse in their lives. And so then when we extend this to animals, that's another layer of compassion that is sometimes not easy. But compassion is ultimately healing for us if we can learn how to hold it in a way that includes ourselves in our circle of care too.
I agree with that exactly, because I can certainly relate to the pain that the burden of knowing causes. However, I wouldn't take it back.
Mhm.
I love being aware. I love that I'm not participating knowingly in additional cruelty. And I really want more people to see to connect with that part of themselves. And I think that you're the perfect person to try and bridge that gap for people because you have such a soft and loving manner about you. You've got all this education. You understand where people have been raised, where they're coming from, how we've been indoctrinated, and how we have to be kind to all animals, which include people. But I find that many people, they struggle finding meaning and purpose. I feel like you and I have that deep meaning and purpose because we're connected to this. But how can a vegan lifestyle contribute to that greater fulfillment in life?
Yeah. Well, when I interviewed and surveyed vegans, what I found was, the top three positive emotional changes were alignment with values, extending their circle of compassion, and finding meaning and purpose. Those really came through as very common changes that people found on their vegan path. And I think part of why that is that in choosing not to eat animals, it's checking so many boxes of things we care about. We're, at some level, we know that eating animals must cause harm and pain, and yet because we were taught we had to do it to survive, we've blocked that out. Now that we are free of that, we realize, wow, not only can I not eat them and exist and survive, I can really thrive. I'm actually doing a favor to my health, and I'm doing a favor to the planet that will help it. That's freeing. And it's sort of a release of these stories that we've been told that we have to eat animals. And so, yes, they must suffer for us. And it's like, no, that's not true. And it's so freeing to break free of something that I think deep inside we know just there's this cognitive dissonance, that I'm doing something that doesn't align truly with my values of compassion and kindness. And now I've broken free of that, and that inner dissonance is lessened. Now there's a freedom and a lightness. And when you mention fulfillment, Cheryl, I just want to say that being fulfilled doesn't mean being happy all the time.
So true.
In this tough world,
Yeah.
being fulfilled can mean like being aware of tough things and daring to face them. But without facing them and feeling the emotions that are part of that, we can't really have the richest, fullest life that we would be able to have when we face the tough things and then decide how we're going to respond to them and how we're going to do our best to contribute to a better world in whatever way we can. So that gives purpose, it gives fulfillment, it gives meaning.
I like to think that, I'm just one person. I don't have all the answers. I'm not meant to, but I'm very grateful that I am not contributing to that. That's actually, a balm sometimes on the wounds. It's like, well, I'm doing what I can, and I'm not participating. How does understanding the interconnectedness with the life influence and the way we approach food, relationships, and the planet all come together?
You're listening to Better Life for Animals podcast. Our mission is to amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. First of all, go ahead and subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching or listening. And then get involved by visiting betterlifeforanimals.com. That's betterlifeforanimals.com. Be sure to check out our blog, learn more about incredible sanctuaries, and explore our book section, where 100% of net proceeds from book sales are donated to sanctuaries. Every action you take helps to make a difference. And remember, subscribe to this channel. And now back to the show.
Yeah, it is interesting how it's so interconnected. I think that's a discovery many of us have on our vegan journeys is we might start for one reason. For me, it started first because of compassion for workers, because of a show I saw that showed immigrants in a meat processing plant. And I realized what a horrible work environment it was for many of these workers. That led me to then very quickly think, well, if I don't like what's happening to the workers, what about the animals? And that very soon led me to my primary reason for being vegan, which is compassion for all sentient beings, compassion for the animals. And at the same time, I quickly discovered the health and the environmental impacts as well, and how all these interrelate with one another, and food justice, where food being available for people versus overusing resources, in the way we do with animal agriculture, where, it takes so many resources to feed animals. So very quickly, and other people start for health reasons, but once we're not eating animals, for some people, that opens their compassion to start to be willing to look at how animals are treated and to open their eyes and see how all this is interconnected. And one thing that came through in my surveys and interviews for many people was this common theme of, I now realize how everything is interconnected, how I'm connected to nature, how I'm connected to all beings. And this sense of unity or oneness was a huge theme that came through in my interviews of people discovering this once they were no longer having animals on their plate.
Excellent. What are some key strategies for successful transitioning to a vegan lifestyle, especially for those who are feeling overwhelmed?
Okay. Well, I think each of us might have our own path. It's certainly becoming easier to do it much more quickly than it might have been at other times in history. But I think follow your own knowing about the pace you are ready for. Some people do it overnight, but you do need support and resources often for that to be doable. So you may want to do some research and make sure you know what foods you can eat and have a support system in place, whether it be an online support group or some places have local plant-based or vegan groups that could help you. There's also many online groups that you can look into. And so having the support of what to eat, other people that are on this journey that you can learn from. And so then decide for you a date. When I started, I read the 30-Day Vegan Challenge by Colleen Patrick Gaudreau. I was already vegetarian, but I had some blocks to going fully vegan at first. I just wasn't sure how to handle social situations where, for example, family gatherings where there was food with dairy or eggs in it. And how was I going to express myself at those social gatherings? I also wasn't sure how to replace some of the breakfasts I'd become accustomed to, things that might not seem like a big deal, but they're decisions we make in everyday life. So
Sure.
I read the 30-Day Vegan Challenge and it guided me to set a date for my change, identify my obstacles that were getting in the way, and have a plan for how to address them, and then set a date for when that full change would happen. And for me, it was a month later. It gave me a little time to research, to prepare. Now, some people, they read something or see something and it's just like, I'm doing it overnight. And that's great too, but you'll still need support. And because sometimes if we make changes without our preparation stage, that's one of the stages of change is preparation that leads into action. If we don't have that grounded, we're a little bit more at risk for setbacks because we don't have the support systems and the strategies in place, that help us override the challenges we might face. Because let's face it, we are still in a not yet vegan world where everything around us is trying to push us towards eating meat and dairy at social events. So being really kind to yourself and having strategies in place and support systems in place. On my website, I have a page that's resources, and it has a list of websites, books, all kinds of things where people can find these kinds of resources that could help them on their journey to be more successful.
Yes, because it really is a journey, isn't it? Because I remember in the beginning, I had just decided I just can't do this anymore. But that didn't mean I was able to really speak about it or, impose. Now I can go to a restaurant and go, where are your vegan options? And people at my very table might look like, why are we doing this? But I'm like, because we're standing up for the animals. But I wasn't always there. So we definitely need all that support.
Yes,
You're
and you're speaking to this other piece of it too, Cheryl, is not only how do we do it for ourselves, but then how do we start to explain and communicate with loved ones and others that we come into contact with, which can be one of the biggest obstacles for people transitioning, is that whole social context that you're describing and the communication.
Yes. And it can create angst within oneself because if you don't speak up, you feel like you've not spoken up for the animals. And if you speak too harshly, then you've offended your friend or family member. And that's not good either, because in the end, we're all social creatures. It's a bind. It can be. We have to have real strength of our convictions. Your book discusses moving toward a compassionate world, which I just love. So, in closing, Angela, what's one meaningful action that individuals can take to create a broader impact?
One, you made it really tough.
Well, two.
Okay. First, obviously, is moving to or living a vegan lifestyle the best you can. Anything in that direction is better than nothing. So first, I would just say, if you're not already there, move in that direction. And then second, once you've moved in the direction or are vegan, find where your heart feels called to serve. We each have different gifts. I'm a psychologist. I'm an empath. There's certain things that other vegans do for activism that I would not be well suited towards. I don't have those qualities, but there's certain things I can bring that perhaps others wouldn't be able to bring because of my background and because of my set of skills. So find what you feel called to do. A lot of people go more into the food end of it because that's, even though veganism is not just about food, it's about all the choices we make that could cause harm to animals. It's an ethical stance. Food can be that tripping point for a lot of people that get in the way of making this transition. So some vegan activists go the food route of teaching people how to cook plant-based foods, how the nutritional aspects of it. Others are there protesting at different types of places to show, how cruel certain practices are. Others might write letters. Others might be more just trying to share with their friends and family in ways that help them to become more aware. Some write blogs or social media posts. Find where you feel called. And I will add, in my book, I have a whole chapter on purpose that shares dozens and dozens of ways that people share their gifts to help spread the message of plant-based and vegan living. So find your calling. If we feel this angst for animals, but we don't have a way we're doing something, even if it's small, it can be harder. Compassion is best responded to with action of some sort. So that helps us not just feel the empathy but then be distressed. It helps us feel like, as you said, if nothing else, by not eating animals, we're doing a huge thing right there that we can really feel at peace about. That's a huge step. And then if we can share it a little bit here and there with others, or find a calling in some way to share it, that is even a greater feeling for us to know that we're making some kind of difference for what we care about.
Well said. Tell us how we can find your book, Angela.
Oh, great. Well, at my website, AngelaCrawfordPhD.com. And again, that's AngelaCrawfordPhD.com. You can look under the book tab, and there's a link there that describes the book. And as you scroll down, it lists several booksellers. I'm excited to see that it's listed at just about every bookseller that you can imagine. You can buy it wherever you like. And it is, if it's before the book comes out when you listen to this, it's available for pre-order. And for those who do pre-order, there's a special bonus workshop that you can sign up to be part of on my website. On that book page, it has a place where you can put in your receipt number and where you bought it, and then you'd be added into the list for this bonus workshop that's going to be in April, shortly before the book comes out. So, but definitely, I really appreciate any pre-orders, or if it's after the fact, whenever. I hope you'll check it out. It's geared both for the veg curious who want to learn more about veganism and the positives that can come from choosing this lifestyle, and it's geared towards vegans who want to be as impactful and fulfilled on their path as they can be.
I'm so excited for you, Angela, and I love this book. And I highly recommend our listeners to check it out and to take advantage of any workshop that Angela Crawford offers. As someone who has worked with Angela, who I can tell you she has helped me immensely, I think this is a wonderful way to get started as well as to go deeper. So thank you for your time today, Angela. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure.
It's been an honor to be part of this.
Thank you for joining us on the Better Life for Animals podcast. Together, we can create a world where all beings are treated with dignity, respect, and care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more people and spread awareness about the incredible work happening in animal sanctuaries. You can also share this episode with friends and fellow advocates to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep speaking up, taking action, and making a difference for the animals.